Alright, so today I want to introduce you to what I consider to be the top 6 beginner jeans in ball pythons. And when it comes to ball python jeans, there's actually over 200 jeans. It can get pretty confusing trying to decide on what jeans to invest in, especially if you're a beginner, whether you're breeding ball pythons or just picking one up as a pet. So all these pretty much have a really good price point, just above like what you'd pay for a normal ball python. As a matter of fact, I've had a lot of people come up to my tables at the reptile shows and they'll actually take a look at some of my snakes and they'll go, that normal is actually the cheapest one in the whole show. The normals are really cheap, but what you may not know is some of these jeans, for just a little bit more money, you can actually step up your game and get something a lot fancier than just the classic wild type ball python. And all these jeans actually are dominant or co-dominant. So if you breed them into something else, half the offspring come out containing the gene. And all these genes work really well in combinations, and they don't have any genetic defects, no head wobbles or duck billing or anything like that associated with some of the other genes. I say these are probably the top 6 genes that you can get in all of ball pythons. So I want to jump over to the internet and now I want to show you these top 6 beginner genes and what you can invest in if you're looking for a ball python. Alright, so I'm going to jump over here on Morphmarket.com and I want to start with the individual genes, all 6 of them just by themselves, and then I want to show you the potential of each of those genes when worked into other combinations. And the first one I want to start with is the pinstripe. This is what a pinstripe looks like, and let me tell you, I'd say the pinstripe is probably one of my favorite genes, and I would definitely consider it to be a beginner gene as well. And the pinstripe is pretty interesting. It has a really unique pattern on the snake. It actually has this really bold line right down the top of the snake, and then on the sides it has kind of like these crunched together alien heads. You can actually see kind of like the Roswell gray alien heads all scrunched together on the side of the snake. And usually the pinstripes as a standalone gene, they can be really super bright gold, almost like a metallic gold color. It's pretty amazing. And I actually pulled up a combination with the pinstripe so you can kind of see what happens with the pinstripe working it into other combinations. And it's weird when you actually think about the visual dominance of different genes. Sometimes the color can really dominate some of your combinations, and sometimes the pattern can really dominate depending on which gene you have. And let me tell you, when it comes to the pinstripe, I would say as far as visual dominance, it really shines through as far as the pattern. You can definitely tell in this one that the pinstripe is in the mix. You can see the really strong stripe right down the top from the pinstripe, and you can kind of see the scrunched together alien heads on the side. This is actually a Mojave pastel pinstripe. Pretty amazing combination. So here is another beginner gene. I'd say this is probably the most popular gene in all of ball pythons, and that is the pastel. And let me tell you, if you're looking at the difference between a pastel and a normal, sometimes the prices can be almost the same, maybe just a little bit more for the pastels. It can be pretty close. And I'd say as far as the best bang for your buck, the pastel is probably the way to go. You can actually mix it into almost any other combination and get a really yellow color coming through on a lot of your combinations. It's actually considered to be a brightening gene, so you can actually mix it with other brightening genes and really make some bright and flashy snakes with the pastel. The pastel also tends to jumble up the pattern in a lot of your combinations too. So I actually pulled up another one here. Take a look at this. This is one we're kind of showing you the ultimate potential of what the pastel can do. So the pastel is a really yellow snake, and if you actually mix it with some other genes that really bring out a lot of color, you can make that yellow really pop from the pastel. This is actually the combination of the pastel, the fire, the orange dream, and the yellow belly. All 4 genes are brightening genes. You mix them together and you can make some really bright and flashy snakes. So here's another one I definitely consider to be a beginner gene. This is actually a dark gene. This is the leopard. And when it comes to leopard, I'd say it's mainly a pattern enhancing gene. It can really scramble up the pattern in a lot of your combinations, and it really darkens the background. Sometimes it gives it almost like an inkjet black background in a lot of your combinations. And here is one combination. When it comes to leopard, let me tell you, the leopard is, a pattern enhancing gene. Probably the best thing that I would mix with the leopard is the spot nose. Take a look at this. When you mix the leopard with the spot nose. As a matter of fact, this is actually the pastel yellow belly leopard spot nose. So the combination of the leopard and the spot nose really jumbles up the pattern, and then the pastel and the yellow belly really brings out a lot of color. Pretty amazing. So here is another jean I would definitely consider if you're looking at beginner jeans, and that is the Lesser. And there's actually a couple different ways you can think about the Lesser as a standalone jean. It's a really bright and flashy jean. As a matter of fact, I actually have some female Lessers. I have one that is almost as bright as a hatchling. They can be really bright as a hatchling, maybe fade a little bit as they age and mature, but a lot of times they'll actually keep a lot of the bright color as adults, which is kind of interesting. And the Lesser, if you actually mix it in with other combinations, it really keeps that bright yellow color, and it can really enhance the contrast between the lights and the darks in a lot of combinations. But kind of the cool thing I like about the Lesser, it's actually in the blue-eyed leucistic complex. So if you breed it with any other jean in the blue-eyed leucistic complex, you get an all-white snake with blue eyes. And take a look at this. I actually pulled one up here. This is what you get from the Lesser. This is actually the combination of the Lesser and the Mojave makes an all-white snake with these really bright blue eyes. Pretty much everybody's favorite snake. When I go to the reptile shows and I have a white snake on my table, everyone comes up to the table and says, hey, can I hold the white snake? Because it's a really impressive combination. And I would say when it comes to the blue-eyed leucistic complex, there's probably about a dozen jeans in the blue-eyed leucistic complex, and the Lesser is, I would actually consider to be kind of the king of the white snakes, because if you actually mix it with any of the other jeans in the blue-eyed leucistic complex, you end up with an all-white snake with the blue eyes, versus if you had, like, for example, the Mojave and you mixed it with like a Mystic, you'd actually get a Mystic Potion, which is kind of like a lavender purple colored snake with some pattern. So when it comes to white snakes, I'd say if you want to make a lot of white snakes with pretty much any jean in the blue-eyed leucistic complex, Lesser is definitely the way to go. Here's another jean. This is another dark jean. This is actually the GHI, short for gotta have it. That is where they got the name GHI. And the GHI is pretty interesting. It's a really strong pattern enhancing jean, really jumbles up the pattern, and it really darkens the background, similar to the Leopard. Both the Leopard and the GHI are really dark jeans. The Leopard, I would say, it tends to scramble up the pattern in a completely different way than the GHI. I'd say they both have different visual appearances when you mix them with different jeans. I'd say if you're actually looking for dark jeans, either the GHI or the Leopard would definitely be a good bet. And probably my favorite GHI combination is the combination of the GHI and the Mojave. Take a look at this. I actually pulled one up here, and take a look at this crazy snake. As a matter of fact, if I was to get two jeans, probably what I would get is I would get the GHI and the Leopard. Both are really dark jeans and make some really impressive combos. As a matter of fact, this is kind of an unexpected combination between the GHI and the Mojave. There's really no other ball python that looks anything like this. I've actually seen some of these in person, and let me tell you, they don't even look real. They almost look like they're stuffed snakes, like they're toys or something. It's pretty crazy. So here's the last one I wanted to show you as far as a beginner jean, and that would be the Calico. And the Calicos can be pretty variable from one to the other. I'd say this is kind of like a mid-white Calico. Sometimes you can have a lot of white coming up in the patterns. And kind of the cool thing about the Calico is it'll actually take kind of the alien heads on the sides of the snakes and really stretch it out into these really open patterns. And a lot of times it'll bring a lot of white up in a lot of combinations. And one of my favorite Calico combinations is when you wear Calico in with the Spider. Take a look at this crazy snake. This one is insane. And look at all the white on this snake, and that is all due from the Calico. So this is actually a Calico Sterling bee. So the bee actually has Spider in the mix, and a lot of times with your spiders you'll actually have almost like a pseudo Calico, sometimes just a little bit coming up the belly, but nothing ever like this. You can definitely tell that when the Calico works with the Spider, it just really explodes all the white coming up through the snake. And the Sterling is actually, as a matter of fact, if you look at the jeans, the Sterling is a combination of the cinnamon and the super pastel. That is what they call the Sterling, and essentially what that does is it really darkens the background. Sometimes the Sterlings can be almost like a silvery color, which is kind of interesting. But let me tell you, Calico, actually I've been working quite a bit with Calico in my collection. I actually started with one female, and then I started breeding some stuff to that Calico, and I got some of the most amazing Calico combos. Let me tell you, it's one of my favorite jeans, and I definitely consider it a beginner jean for ball pythons. All right, so it is time for the question of the day. And Amber Robb asks, I've noticed you use binder clips on your snake tubs. Can you share your system with us? And that is a very good question. So if you actually look at this rack behind me, this is an ARS 5040, and pretty much on all my racks in my whole collection, I use these little metal binder clips. They're just little tiny metal clips, and most of the times I'll actually have them right in the middle of the tub. And I use them, I'd say most of the time I actually use them for feeding day. And I'll actually go through when I'm feeding my collection, if they actually take a rodent, I'll move that clip to the right side of the tub, indicating that they've actually taken a rodent, and then I'll actually mark it on the feeding card that's on the front of the tub. And if they don't take the rodent, I'll move it to the left, and I can just kind of glance through and see which ones have eaten, which ones haven't eaten, and which ones I haven't offered. So if it's still in the middle, you know, pretty much at the end of the feeding, then I know I have to at least offer every snake one rodent once a week. And then once I go through and record everything on the feeding cards, I'll move them all back to the middle for the rest of the week. And I also use them for cleaning tubs. So right now I'm actually going through and cleaning all my snake tubs and replacing all the substrate. And what I'll do is I'll actually take it from the middle, and when I replace the substrate, I'll move it over to the left, because I don't clean the whole collection all in one shot. I usually do little sections over a few days, and I can just kind of glance at my collection and see, all right, yes, I've cleaned these tubs because all the clips are moved over to the left. And then once they're all clean, I'll move them back over to the middle. That's pretty much my system for the binder clips. So that is pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.